It's Just Business with Steve Thomas and your host, Chris Larry.
Hello and welcome to another episode of It's Just Business on the Hogstye Network, the show where we look at the dollars and the cents of the sports media business industrial complex and all of its threaded email glory. How you doing today, Steve?
I am doing just fine. Did you survive the big winter apocalypse?
I'm
Obviously, you
sure
survived it. How
I'm
did you?
surviving. Yeah, it's fine. I mean, listen, I'm not I've been through plenty of winters. I've been through plenty of winters in New York City. I mean, some people just lose their mind about winter. What do you
Well, we do
expect?
down here in South Texas.
No, but
Doesn't
I'm
happen
talking
very
about even up
often.
here, even places that should be used to it. I don't beat up on people that shouldn't necessarily have to deal with this. You may do a quiet snicker and move on. But for my compatriots in these regions that bitch and whine to this degree,
Yeah,
I
you
have
have no. Yeah, I
very
have
little
no
patience.
sympathy. Yeah, I have no sympathy for it because you guys should be used to it,
Yeah,
and
yeah. Put your
you're
belt on.
voluntarily living there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I did, we did this on the hog side. I I'd taken a gamble that I have been in the coldest weather of anybody on the show, and I won that bet. So let's do this. If you know, I
Well,
do
you
know
must
exactly.
have like a army base in Antarctica in your pocket or
Yeah,
something.
no, I don't have that. I do
Okay.
not have that. No, but I do have the coldest winter I ever went through, and I had to look this up to verify. Was in Illinois in 1989-90. It was -20 with -37 wind chill. That's the coldest I've ever been
Well,
in.
then
That.
if with that data, I might get close to you because I spent what would it would have been the winters of 90 and 91, so pretty much same
Yeah,
time. Although that doesn't mean it's the
it
exact
was
same
1 year
weather.
later, but
Yeah,
yeah.
in Peoria, Illinois.
Well, this was this particular. I had to look up the year because I remember the year specifically because it was record. It was the worst winter in history of the region, and -20.
Let me see if I can look it up.
Okay, while you're looking up, and I also won the hottest weather contest too, courtesy of a classified location in the Middle East. But
Yeah, I was going to say I wouldn't. I know enough about your past to not bet against the Heat one.
yeah, no, the heat I definitely it was 130. So Chris is madly typing to see if he can beat my -20, courtesy of his time in Peoria, Illinois.
I did find it. Okay, so a per
And the answer
year
is, we'll see. Drum roll, please. If I could,
90. Let's go
but
negative 19.
I got you beat by a degree.
See, I didn't say I would beat you. I said I would
Yeah,
have come closest of any of them.
it's all right. One degree. Yes, you definitely came closest. Although the real winner was Alex's wife, who had been in a -30 storm in like North Dakota. I forget
Oh
which.
yeah, yeah,
So
that's
she won, but
totally
she was not a part of the show. So
right. Right. Well, there you go.
it was much ado about nothing down here. For the record, it was cold for a while, and that was it.
Yeah, you've had worse in recent years.
Yes, we did.
Um, No, this was more like a southern mid Atlantic kind of Carolinas, Tennessee, and they're about to get wild because I have a bunch of family in the Outer Banks, and the Outer Banks might get a foot this weekend.
Ugh.
That's crazy,
And you
and a sandbar at the edge of the country.
and you beat the storm into the airport by a mere hours, right?
Yes, it got back. Here's if I will allow myself one mini complaint or just observation, even.
If you're flying into Newark, there's many complaints.
Yeah, I actually had to pick somebody up from Newark last night.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I was not thrilled. I was happy to do it, but I was like, what?
Happy to
Was
help
I?
your friend, but
Yeah.
Newark is lousy.
Yes, I would much rather. I was just mad it wasn't JFK or LaGuardia, which at least were easier for me. Um. Anyway, the worst thing about this weather is it just doesn't warm up because normally about a New York City snowstorm, it'll dump even like a foot and then it'll be warm for a couple days and be mostly just gone or puddles by 3 days out. This is sustained sub freezing days of like 9, 10. So you
So it's
just
not
have
melting at all.
no, you just have like ice mountains from the plows everywhere there that we will have evidence of going into early May.
Well, like you said, you should expect this.
Yeah, right. I agree.
For the record, I think Newark Airport is the worst major airport in the country.
I'm not a fan of Newark, so I will not defend it.
JFK and LaGuardia are much easier, much better, both of them.
Yeah, in fact, they given LaGuardia's gotten a major. They're both getting major overhauls. LaGuardia is ahead of. They started earlier, and LaGuardia is actually, it's actually nice. And they're basically redoing all of JFK. So probably in 4 or 5 years, it'll be much
And
improved.
why can't somebody dump some money into Newark for Christ's sake? Then
I involve myself with New Jersey.
Yeah, Chris is too good.
We have much
associate
different
with New
regional
Jersey.
rivalries here in this area. We don't even think about much outside the tri-state area. So, but yeah, I think that I was like, I don't want to go to Jersey on a Friday night. That was my main complaint.
I can't blame you, really.
No, I can't blame myself. Um, well, Steve, we'll let the pitter patter follow behind us. Kind of some, well, kind of some big headliney type stories. One that just kind of broke as we were planning the show. Basically, we recorded this on Saturday morning. This was Friday. It came out Friday evening, if I remember correctly. But kind of in one of the greatest sales setups of all time, the Seattle Seahawks are apparently going for sale. Now, this is like one of the worst kept secrets that Paul Allen's sister, Paul Allen is deceased, was eventually going to sell, right?
I don't
There's a
think
lot.
it's a secret at all.
No, right. But it was being slow rolled and it was like, one day, so, this is Bezos's dream team if, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? But to roll it out like the Friday, kind of right before Super Bowl week really revs up, announce the sale when you're riding high. I mean, talk about a plan to push valuation. It's kind of a brilliant rollout, and this is going to be fascinating to see what this ends up selling for.
Yeah, it's kind of like if Lucasfilm had been sold the day before The Empire Strikes
Right,
Back came
exactly.
out, or whatever.
So kudos to that strategic
Yeah.
team and the
Well,
patience.
and the trick here is that Paul Allen died
Like
8
5
years
years ago,
ago.
right?
2018, so
Okay.
almost 8 years ago. And the plan, Paul Allen's estate indicated he wanted to donate the bulk of his estate to philanthropic causes. And so that was sort of kind of like what Jack Kent Cooke did, only Cooke made an effort to try to get the team to his son in spectacularly failed fashion, as we all know about.
Right. If he'd done this path, it still might be in the Cook family. If he just straight up done it this way.
Yeah. I mean, the problem is John would have had to probably pay estate taxes and on
That's true.
$1 billion. But so the wife got the team. Is it the wife?
I think it's a sister.
It's the sister. Sorry, Jody Allen, the sister, has controlled the team as the executor of the trust. But we always knew that the team had to be liquidated out of respect for Paul Allen's estate wishes that the proceeds be donated to charity. And so this is business 101, ladies and gentlemen. What they are doing here is the high watermark of the Seattle Seahawks. We're going to the Super Bowl literally next week. And guess what? This future Super Bowl champion team, to use their hope and belief, is going to be sold to the highest bidder, coming up. You're not inheriting the Jets, people. You're inheriting the probable Super Bowl champions. Because let's be honest, I mean, they've got to be, favored tremendously.
I think they're like about a 4.5, 5 point favorite right now.
Right. It's not going to be as competitive as some people would like, probably. And so the trick here, of course, is.
And with a general manager who's done this now multiple times and has been there going on 20 years. So you have even those football kind of foundation is been the same and solid for a while. So it's not even full recency bias.
Right. And so now the trick is, what is the valuation? Knowing the crappy Washington team
was the floor.
Was the floor, at a little over 6 million.
Billion.
Billion. Right. 6 million. No, 6 billion. And that was a team at the time that was at the very bottom of the NFL in almost every way you could possibly measure it. And this is going to be a team at the very top, or at worst, the number 2 franchise in the NFL. And so what are they going to value at? Sportico. So the column I'm looking at is ESPN. Sources, Seahawks will go up for sale after Super Bowl 60 by Seth
Yeah, it
Wickersham
was the ESPN Wickersham. Yeah.
and Brady Henderson, which is why I said Seth will go up for sale. Seth isn't for sale. Um, okay, so they claim that Sportico has the valuation at 6.59 million, which strikes me as unbelievably low. That's ranked 14th. If Washington at the bottom is 6 million, and then the Los Angeles Lakers were at 10 billion, which is cited in this story. We did that a couple years, a few months ago. Genie Bus sold. I can't believe that the Seahawks aren't going to go for less than like 8.
I think eight is the. You could maybe bet a shade under or a shade over, but I think
Right.
that's the line.
I think 8's the number. That's exactly right. And kudos, by the way, to Allen for donating a bunch of Paul Allen for donating a bunch of money to philanthropic causes. He can do this in a way that he can still keep the generational wealth in his family and then still do something decent for all the money he's made. I mean, that's a reasonable thing. Not everybody does stuff like that.
No, it's what they did coming out of the Gilded Age, right? That's why we have these big foundations that were just bankers, industrialists of their time.
Right. Well, there's a lot of those.
So
that's exactly right.
So
and also we should be said that this is not just the Seahawks. So the Trailblazers are wrapped up in this too. Allen's estate owned them since the same estate has controlled it since Allen's death. So I would assume this is going to go for it. This doesn't expressly state that the Trailblazers is going to also be sold, but I would have to think they would be.
Right. I mean, I don't know why one would be special and one the other. I actually he's got a bunch. So to underscore your point, he's got tons of holdings and tons of things.
All kinds of stuff. Paul Allen, for those who didn't know, was the Microsoft co-founder, just for the record.
He was a huge collector and pop culture guy. He has, I think, some kind of personal collections of pop culture stuff, like recordings and stuff like that. That's like massive. I once had which it would have been my dream job, but I also knew at the time that I was never going to get past the informational interview. But they were looking for, I think, curator of a new museum of pop culture that they were building or whatever. So, and this was probably like 5, 6, 7 years ago. So somewhere right in that window of dealing with the aftermath of the estate. So this is just the biggest, most sports, not even the only sports holding of theirs. But there's a whole long tail of stuff that is under that ownership.
And did you actually get an interview?
Yeah, I had a meeting. Actually, it's kind of funny because I think it was at the Rockefeller Club or the Princeton Club or some snooty club in Manhattan where I had like an hour informational meeting with like the chief headhunter for the role, which meant I didn't get past whatever kind of like filtering second stage. I was probably too junior. I knew that the whole time, but I was like, I will definitely take the meeting.
Sure. Okay. And so this story goes on to say, which supports our guess. It says one team executive told ESPN that the Seahawks could fetch 7 to 8 billion. And then the Trailblazers, the Trailblazers are in the process of being sold to a bunch of investors, and they are going for 4 billion.
Yeah, that's what I would have guessed.
Yeah, I mean, because the Trailblazers are a fairly minor team in the realm of, high profile NBA teams.
And that's still a pretty solid price tag.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Absolutely. Okay. So in 2000, and by the way, the team has denied this. And this story makes the point to say a spokesman for the Paul Allen estate said the organization doesn't comment on rumors or speculation and that the team is not for sale. And so this reporting is just reporting by Wickersham and the other author, Brady Henderson. This is not based on any official announcement or anything. But this is a planned leak. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
This is basically a free commercial.
They didn't deny it, right? That's what there's your double confirmation.
Well, they did deny it. They said the team is not for sale.
Oh, okay.
But it doesn't say the team will not be for sale the day after the Super Bowl. It says the team is not for sale.
Not currently.
Currently not for sale. Right. So this is where you split hairs. And so if they had wanted to say if they had wanted to, they could have said the team is not and will not is not for sale currently, and the ownership group has no plans to sell it in the future. They didn't say that. They just said is not for sale, which is the same thing as Bill Clinton saying the definition of is right at this moment. I am not receiving sexual favors from Monica Lewinsky during this deposition. So that's so it's not, it's a denial couched in a non-denial. Okay. All right. So 2022 statement. Jody Allen said the teams would eventually be sold given Paul's plans to dedicate the vast majority of wealth to philanthropy, but estates of this size and complexity can take 10 to 20 years to wind down. There's no preordained timeline by which the teams must be sold. And that's true.
She's done a great job. He picked the right person to do this. I think
most of these things fall apart when the principal owned. Look at the Yankees. It took them years to get back.
She's done it. She's been a very at a high wire act. Kind of like that free solo guy. In terms of the danger here. But she's done a good job being the executor of this estate and the transition.
Well, and as compared to the way Jack Kent Cooke planned his estate, he couldn't even get the team to his son, much less he liquidate it in a reasonable fashion. So I don't know if we have much more to say about it. That's the Seahawks story.
No, it'd be one we're watching. Yeah, let's see what this price tag is. Let's see how does Bezos, is this what Bezos was waiting for? And why he passed on Washington, or is he didn't want any of it?
The Super Bowl will contain pre-run up to the Super Bowl contain a myriad of stories about this.
Oh yeah, totally.
For the entire week. And I would expect to see, if the Seahawks win, literally the next day, there's going to be something Seahawks are officially for sale.
They're probably entertaining buyers this week, including at the game.
They don't have to tell the truth to the media.
Right. They can invite whoever they want to their owner's box, right? That's not a scandal.
That's exactly right.
So yeah, should be fascinating. This is definitely, it's kind of fun to think about. Seattle, I think if you were to, and I'm not looking at anybody else's analysis or doing mine, in real time necessarily, but I would be very confident saying this is a top third tier franchise.
Third, sure. I mean, it depends on how you measure it. I mean, if you're talking about just like general high profile franchises in the NFL, the Patriots, the Giants.
Yeah, it's not tier one.
The Cowboys is number one,
right,
by far, no matter what.
And I think tier two, if you do your kind of Midwest stalwarts, it doesn't. But I think if so the top third, Seattle's a giant city. They have kind of regional ownership because it's more sparse. Things are more spread out there. Yeah. So they've been good for a long time. The whole 12th man thing. They obviously have a very dedicated local following. I know that it means less and less over time, but it is still a asset. I think they're probably in that top third.
Yeah. I think the top three easily. The Cowboys are number one by a long shot, then the Patriots, and then the Giants. To me, those are the top three.
Yeah, no, I mean third of the
I know.
32.
I know what you mean. I just meant, and then the Seattle's up there in the top third-ish because they've been a solid franchise, for a long time. And
lots of money in that city.
Paul Allen is a very high-profile guy. Yeah. Everybody knows who Paul Allen is. Sure. Yeah, top third.
Yeah. So, So this is, it's a great one to come do. It's a great one to come do to really start to get what the actual valuations are, right? So there's no like as you said,
Sportico seemed to be very wrong about these NFL valuations. Look at Washington. I mean, they were like $1.5 billion off or something.
Well, yes, I agree with that. Although here's the point for being conservative here, and I mean, fiscally conservative, or staying on the smaller side of a guesstimate, is. Another thing we learned from the Washington sale was how hard it is to put together this level of deals beneath the NFL's rules. And so some of the kind of dampening effect on the ceiling of the estimates here, in fact, I think maybe it trends more to 7 billion than 8 is because it's very hard to put together this level of deal. And does the fact that maybe this goes for like a 7.4 instead of like an 8.2, is that the loggerhead to break the NFL to loosen up their rules about whatever it is, foreign investments, whether it's investment firms, whatever, set of rules to expand who can own this. Is this the true test case if they can get the valuations that they're probably worth?
Well, I guess we should repeat this here. So the big rule is that the NFL does not allow major corporate ownership. And so in other words, like at one point, Sony owned the Dodgers for 5 minutes, for example. That the NFL does not allow that. And so then when you have these kind of valuation, and they also don't, there's very specific rules about even the investors that can be involved, and again, foreign investments and all these things. And so when you get up, it was one thing to have teams that are valued at, I think Dan Snyder bought the team for something like either 600 or 800 million, something like that. You can find people with that kind of money. You can't find more than a handful who can afford to invest $7 to $8 billion by themselves. It takes Paul Allen, Elon Musk, those type of guys who can just drop money like that. And so then what you have otherwise is the Josh Harrises of the world who have to go find 30 investors. Well, don't quote me on the number, but a lot of investors. And it becomes exponentially harder to put deals like this together when you can't bring in GM or pick your company.
And he just did it 2.5 years ago. So someone already had to cobble together whatever the 28,
and it was
30
one, and it was, he's got the largest ownership group in the NFL, and that is the future. If the NFL does not change, and I'm not saying they should, I think they shouldn't change, but if they won't change, at some point there's going to be a cap on these valuations because then
it's
you're
a
just not going to
default
have enough
cap.
people. Right.
Totally. So, and I think we'll see that in real time, and we'll get, as the sale goes through and how they do it and how they finance it, and then that'll force a conversation on their appetite about, and because maybe to some degree they hold by those rules, and 7.4 within our framework is better than an 8.1 in the Wild West, right? Like, so you can make business decisions like that. It doesn't always have to be which pile of money is bigger. I mean, I know I'll put my cynicism cap back on in a second, but you don't have to make decisions always based on that. And they, do they have an app? Do they want to keep their club as, because this is what it boils down to. How small do they want to keep their club? And that, widening that is a Pandora's box. And that might, they might say, okay, we'll take the 7.4.
Maybe. Oh, and the other thing is, the NFL does not allow teams to be publicly traded. I mean, the Green Bay Packers are an exception, and the honest truth is that their setup is a farce. Okay, it's not actually, that is not real traditional publicly traded stock. Okay, what it is the stock that you can hold in the Packers is not, you cannot transfer, you cannot sell it on the open market, and you're not entitled to dividends, and you're not entitled to voting. It's literally, truly, almost literally a piece of paper on your wall. And so that's not real. That is not true publicly traded stock.
It's a unique and unrepeatable business model.
Yeah, it's basically, if you're a huge fan, you can pay a couple $100 and get a thing on the wall. And that's all it is. And the reason why the NFL doesn't want publicly traded teams is then you're talking about only profits, and the game itself isn't as important. And that's why they don't want corporate ownership also, because then corporate ownership is publicly traded in and of itself, and it becomes a publicly traded asset along, so that's why they're sticking to this, and we'll see how long it goes.
Yeah, so we'll see. So it's going to be super fascinating.
Yep.
Staying in the rarefied air of NFL owners, as you probably know,
this is kind of the non-rarefied air, but
yeah. The Epstein file dump happened sometime Friday. What was yesterday? The 30th, January 30th. I think it was in the
yesterday being the day that before we're recording this, which
yes.
is not the day you're listening.
So, and, quite frankly, there's millions of people parsing it and pulling different things out and blah, blah, blah. So it is definitely a giant data dump of people sifting through. But there do appear a number of NFL storylines that are emerging from it, especially around ownership. So Bob Kraft, our old friend Bob Kraft, what's the giant side of the ownership group? Is it the Tisch? Is it?
Tisch, yeah.
Yeah. So, because they've got kind of a duopoly there, two families that co-own the Giants. And
Mara and Tisch are who you're talking about. Yeah. And I'm not aware of Mara being mentioned.
No. This is Tisch. It's definitely Tisch. So I just couldn't remember his name. And Josh Harris' name is peppered throughout some of the evidence and holdings and data and email chains. So One, like let's stay maybe at the Robert Kraft of it all for a second, because well, his team is about to walk into the Super Bowl again, and he is probably going to get named to the Hall of Fame, maybe in and around the time that you were actually listening to this.
Yes.
In fact, I can even look that up when they're going to announce that. It's this week. It's at that stupid award ceremony. Like they did.
The
Another thing, the
NFL
NFL's built,
honors.
yeah, built up a whole fake thing around, right? Like it's so like, these things that like 5 years ago didn't exist, and now they're in, essential parts of the NFL calendar.
So I'm not sure we have a great source for the Robert Kraft involvement with Epstein because it's been coming out, courtesy of mostly individuals who are sorting through the raw Epstein data. Um, I couldn't find something specific on Epstein or on Kraft, but the general gist is um, allegations of communications between Kraft and Epstein that were shortly after Epstein's arrest in 2019, when he got arrested for obtaining paid sexual favors in some, South Florida massage parlor. And we did that story back then. And the general gist of the story was that the feds were investigating a sex trafficking ring, and it showed up at that particular massage parlor, and Kraft was there, and he had paid for services, and he bought his way out of that eventually. He never got convicted of it. But the Kraft allegations, to be clear, are nothing about Kraft going to Epstein Island. It's nothing about Bob Kraft, with photos of girls, or that is not. It's just communicate. As far as I know, and Chris is still looking, it's just communications between Kraft and Epstein, like billionaire to billionaire. These guys all know each other, and at that level, very few people care about the morals of your fellow billionaires. So, Chris, did you find anything? Otherwise, I'm going to move on.
Just people sharing various files of email correspondences back and
Right.
forth between the two entities.
Right. So we don't have a great source. It's just kind of out there in the ether. There is a better source, some sources about Josh Harris's investigation or involvement. And this we have is Yahoo Sports published this via something called Clutch Points, but Yahoo Sports is owning this. It says Commanders 76ers owner Josh Harris included in latest Jeffrey Epstein files release by Marty Breach, dated January 30th. And so here, the involvement is not too much different than the Kraft involvement. There are no allegations that there's photos of Harris with, inappropriate photos of minors or anything like that. It says that, quote, Jeffrey Epstein, and they are quoting in the story, they are quoting Philadelphia Inquirer reporters Ryan W. Briggs and Max Marin. And so this is three levels of quote here, but it says Jeffrey Epstein and Sixers co-owner Josh Harris had an ongoing business relationship that included numerous phone calls and at least one visit to Epstein's home in Manhattan, according to emails released Friday by the U.S. Department of Justice. The emails do not contain any indication Harris is involved in sexual misconduct. The records shed light on a years-long correspondence that occurred after Epstein's 2008 guilty plea, but before his 2019 arrest. And it says it was buried within 3 million documents made public Friday. Harris released a statement on his behalf. It says Harris sought to prevent Epstein's attempts to develop a corporate relationship with Apollo, which is one of Harris's entities. As these emails indicate, Harris sought to avoid meeting with Epstein, canceling meetings, having others return his calls. So Harris is saying the guy tried to contact me. I wanted nothing to do with him. And hopefully that's the end of the story. Your thoughts?
Right. Yeah. That's the end of the story with
End of the
Josh
story.
Harris.
The Harris,
No.
specifically the Harris.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, I think it's the same, the same level of caution that would sort of you'd have Kraft, you'd have with Harris here for the same similar reason is that you have,
Of course, Kraft has more of illicit history than does Harris. Harris does not have, has not been arrested for slimy massage parlor conduct.
No, right. So, but even that, my point is that we are just at the tip of these files, and then the legal cases or non-cases or whatever that get built upon them, through them, against them, whatever. So right now we're, what's it, like it's the old, say NFL, like a 49er, right? In terms of what they're based on out there sifting for gold in some, South Dakotan creek. You sift through all the sand until you get a couple of bits of gold. And that's what's happening with this data set right now.
So let me just say
these names, Kraft, Harris, and Tisch are the little nuggets of gold that have so far come, in terms of NFL, that have come out in the sifting.
And most of this is fool's gold. Here's my view of just generally Epstein files. I think everything that, for the most part, all those salacious stuff has probably already come out. I mean, these files have been out there. It's in various levels or in possession of people for 7 years now, 6-7 years. I think most of it that is the truly salacious stuff is probably out there. What I think we will see that we don't know are a bunch of things like this, where Epstein communicated with a bunch of people and a bunch of billionaires. But I think if people are looking for like a photo of person X with a 15-year-old in a hot tub, I think we've seen all of those we're going to see. I don't think most of that's going to come out, because I think it would have been leaked long before then, considering that now 2 different political parties have had control of them, and could have leaked whatever they were going to leak. So I don't think we're going to find much of anything except some of these like emails and things like that. I don't think you're going to find more of somebody, with an underage girl. Just my opinion. I think it would have come out by now.
I don't know if you're going to be right about that, but we'll see, right? Like,
what I'm saying this because this is not the allegations against Kraft and Harris in connection to Epstein are not that. What has come out are businessy communications or communications to attempt business, and there's not allegations that either Kraft or Harris had actively participated in the partying that I know about.
Well, I'll tell you, I think we'll see on Kraft. I think, neither of us, and, Steve would be much better than me anyway, have not dove deep. But I think there's some smoke, there's fire with the law firm and the connection and the handling of Kraft's previous.
You're going to have to describe what you're talking about with the law firm stuff.
So that Epstein advised Kraft on the law firm that he eventually went with. It's a big law firm. It's actually one of the ones that early on paid the whatever fee to Trump back in like last winter. One of those big law firms
on the rub and tug suit. I just want to understand what you were talking about.
Yes. So now,
or not suit, criminal charge.
Now there isn't. Also, by the way, there's nothing inherently illegal about giving advice on, what lawyers you should get to. So I'm not even saying, but
it's a connection. It's a connect, and it's a more than just a hey, do you want to do business connection? It's Kraft reached out or accepted advice from Jeffrey Epstein about a pretty serious advice to how to handle a pretty serious criminal charge
with a law firm that he eventually chose. So, right. So we'll see. And again, I'm not making sense of this. I do know that, Pablo Torre has already said that this is his next focus is the Kraft. So, regardless of what's going on, it's going to be a story this week.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm just saying I would be at this point surprised if any bomb, like real, true, horrible, salacious bombshells came out about anybody. Pick your political, but you and I are on both opposite.
Well, they have that.
I don't think it's rest of
the world scapegoat on this, which I think actually speaks more to your point than against it, because now everyone can just ping this on him and try to move on, even though there's so many people that is Prince Andrew. There are pictures of. There's actually a picture of Prince Andrew.
But that's already. Yeah, there may be more, but the Prince.
But we haven't seen pictures. This is a picture of him laying on a woman.
Okay, no, we haven't seen that, but the basic allegations of Prince Andrew was with underage women or girls.
That was known, but you also were saying like when's the physical,
what I was talking about new stuff that we hadn't heard before is what I'm saying. Prince Andrew, we've known.
There's a massive amount of media files in that data. We'll see. There are.
I just mean, pick your side. Both parties have had control of it now. I think somebody would have sorted through these and leaked the really bad stuff by now if somebody brand new, pick your person, was involved in this. That's what I'm saying.
Or you buy the worldview that at that level of power or elite, those differences really don't matter that much, and then you let the conspiracy come full circle.
I'm going to make something up. So the Biden administration had the files for 4 years. And if there was some high level Republican that was in a hot tub laying on top of 15,
why wouldn't they use them?
Right. And then in Trump, same thing. Trump administration has them now. If some high level Democrat was, laying on top of a 15-year-old, I think they would have leaked it too. That's what I'm saying.
Sure. I understand what you're saying. My point is that
your point is that high level, maybe they're protecting
that they're all the reason they don't release is not because they aren't, is because they're all protecting the same thing.
You might be right. I get it. And
I don't even know what I believe. I'm just saying those are the different those are the different argument camps.
One thing is for sure. I think people don't understand exactly how sleazy some of these billionaire types are. Look at Bob Kraft. He's a venerable, respected, probably this most respected owner in the NFL, because Jerry Jones is a bit of a maverick, and he got arrested for a slimy sex crime in some rundown massage parlor in, where it was, at Jupiter, Florida, somewhere in South Florida, and now he's got a connection to Jeffrey Epstein, and he's known that forever, and people around him have known that forever, and the NFL has utterly not cared, not said anything.
No. It may give us some
which goes to
moments.
Your point. Maybe they're protecting him. Right. That goes to your point.
But we're going to be up for some cringy moments. So here in this coming week, I have a suspect. So just from the highway car pileup aspect of it, it should be interesting.
But I'm going to stick to my. I don't think some brand new name, is going to come out of any of these Epstein, releases that we have. There's going to be some questionable emails and stuff, but I don't think you're going to get.
Well, the nominee for the new Fed chair is all over it.
Really?
Yeah.
And Elon Musk is this new.
There's some new information. Well, the people that claim, here's the thing. This is actually where you give some of these like Robert Kraft types the credit. They are actually smarter. It's the ones that went around and said, "I never knew the guy," that are going to look the dumbest.
I would, if I was involved in this, I'd come out and say everything right now. That's what I'd say. That's what I would do. Yeah, I knew Epstein. I made a bad decision by having a business relationship with him. I tried to cut it off. I had a Coca-Cola marketing deal with him. I used his helicopter. Whatever the issue was, if it were me, I would publish all of it if I was one of these guys and get it over with. That's what I would do.
If you were bragging about how you didn't know the guy, that's right. Where you have a further way to follow.
Now, of course, if somebody had been in a hot tub with a girl with him, you can't say that out loud. That's the problem.
I'm trying to find, just so we know. Well, whatever.
So there's a limit to what people are going to say, but I think the smart thing, and that's sort of what Josh Harris is trying to do, by the way, in the Harris statement, if you go back to what it said, he's saying they had an ongoing business relationship that included numerous phone calls. Oh, that's I'm reading the wrong. Yes. So that's the Harris statement. Harris had an ongoing business relationship with Epstein that included numerous phone calls, one visit to Epstein's home. And Harris says, basically, his statement says, tried to prevent the business. He didn't deny that there was communication, but at least he said the obvious.
Yeah, try to get out somewhat in front of it. Okay, right. So this year's class of Hall of Fame inductees will be the world will know sometime after 9 p.m. Eastern on February 5th, which is this Thursday. So basically, real Super Bowl ramp up day that Thursday. So that's the big NFL honors. I can't give you a timestamp because I imagine it runs till 11. They're probably going to announce it somewhere around 10:45. There you go. So that's when we'll know. So that's by all accounts, it sounds like Kraft is getting in on that pathway, whatever their non-player pathway is, which does.
I'm going to go into that later. Keep going.
Yeah. So now this kind of transitions us into the Belichick story, which, well, unless you talk about where money and power reside, which maybe is obviously a business story.
This is linked
But
back to Epstein, which is linked to Kraft, which
yes,
is linked to Belichick, which is linked to Hall of Fame. But
we're gonna cast Belichick as the proletariat here. He was kept out of the Hall of Fame by 11 votes, right? Is what basically that looks
yes,
like the margin was, because he would have needed, and just a couple more would have get him in. I think he needed 40 of 50 to get in. But apparently, Belichick is not a first ballot Hall of Famer in the eyes of the NFL voters.
yes. Okay, so here's how. First of all, just for the record, I hate the way the Hall of Fame is set up, the process. But so there are 50 voters. 100% of them are media, which I strongly disagree with. And so what happens here is they nominate 20 finalists. There's a group of what I'll call current modern day players. There's a group of seniors, and then there's there's coaches and there's contributors. And so the final voting, the voters can select 5 to 7 finalists, and then they can choose of the senior committee players, which is 3, and then 1 contributor and 1 coach. The voters can choose 3 out of those. Okay. And so 3 total between coach, contributor, and senior. And so what here has happened is that apparently they can only nominate 1 coach and then 1 contributor and then 3 seniors players. So what has happened is Bill Belichick was not the 1 coach nominated. It was, I forget who it was else, to be honest. It was
I don't even think I know who it was, because
it was out there somewhere.
I know. I'm saying I didn't even pay attention because the story was something else.
Right. And so what they're saying is Belichick did not make that final coach nominee. And yes, it took 40 votes, and like 11 people voted against him. So as to process, I've always said the voting, you can have a few media members on this thing, but I think the voters really should be a combination of football insiders, NFL ownership types, some respected coaches, some eligible, players who are in, and then throw in some media people. It should not be 100% media. The way they have it is there's 1 representative of each team, basically. In the case of Washington, for example, it's Jarrett Bell from the USA Today. The Miami Dolphins, it's Armando Salguera from Outkick, for some reason. The Kansas City, can't pronounce it, somebody from the Kansas City Star. So that's it. And then there's a bunch of like at-large voters. And I think they should change that. But as to the Belichick thing, Bill Belichick, yes, won 6 Super Bowls. He also got caught for cheating. He also had 2 bad seasons at the end. He got very, very crosswise with Robert Kraft, which is why Chris was linking this back to Kraft. And the media did not like Bill Belichick because he gave really horrible press conferences. And so I think probably this is Bill Belichick's punishment for being a jerk to the media and for the bad things that happened at the end of his tenure. And it also doesn't help that he's had a really bad turn of things at the University of North Carolina, and his
reputation has not had a good couple years.
This 25-year-old chippy he's been running around with is cast him in a bad light.
All of that off.
Well, yeah, yes. And so I think it's not any more complicated than that. But to your point, could Robert Kraft have been, campaigning against him behind the scenes? It could have been.
Well, also, he's probably going to get named. So now you're going to have a world in which he's named before Belichick, which I think sits, especially if you kind of look at this more.
Robert Kraft is going to get named literally days after he got linked to Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, and before, Belichick. So here, just if you're playing at home, here are his Belichick's. So somebody from this list, now that we know that it's not Belichick, is going to get in on that coach's track. So Bill Arnsparger, Tom Coughlin, Alex Gibbs, Mike Holmgren, who is be my
Holmgren.
Yeah. Chuck Knox, Buddy Parker, Dan Reeves, Marty Schottenheimer, George Seifert, Mike Shanahan, Clark, Shaughnessy. So I think it's actually going to be either Shanahan or Holmgren because one of those guys. So if you're gonna, so we know it's not Belichick, who would be any sane football fan's choice out of that. Whether you like him or not is sort of is immaterial. But so look for one of those guys to be ahead of Belichick now. So probably Shanahan or Holmgren.
Um, I'm not sure that that's correct. The list you read were probably the original nominees.
Oh, so maybe there was one sorting before that.
No. So Belichick was I'm reading here, and let me find the source for this.
I'm looking at from October of this past
That
year.
okay? But that is those aren't the final. That's not the finalists.
So some of those guys got cut before.
Okay, so Bill Belichick was the sole coach finalist, and what has come out this week are rumors.
So there'd be none.
And a leak that Belichick was not selected. Okay, and so like I have a story. So ESPN, sources Bill Belichick will not be a first ballot Hall of Famer by Don Nada Jr. and Seth Wickersham, dated 27 January. So Belichick was the finalist of that group you read. He did make it. So this is a leak to the media that Belichick was not selected.
So it was a list of one. So it was whether
it's a list of one
gotcha.
coach. It's a list of one contributor, and it's a list of 3 senior players. And of that 5, the voters can elect 3. It could be one coach, one contributor, and one senior player. It could be 3 senior players and no coach, no contributor. And so the media report was that Belichick did not receive the votes, meaning the 3 of the 4 will be the contributor or the 3 senior players.
And I think Kraft is on the contributor track, so it really could,
right? Because the contributor, because that's kind of where the that's where the owners fall.
That part of their rules annoys me more than anything else. That seems like a very overcomplicated formula to just figure out how to get important people into the Hall of Fame.
All of what the NFL Hall of Fame does is ridiculous.
At this point in my life, I've also Hall of Fames. I'm sure, although I don't think. Oh no, Country Music Hall of Fame is excellent. That's the only one I've ever been to. But
I've never been to the pro football one.
Hall of Fames are great museums to go to, but these idea that they're governing bodies of greatness, I think that myth to me died long ago.
Well, yeah, and why does the media get to decide?
Baseball does a better job at that, and that's all media.
Well, they have a lot of, but the Baseball Hall of Fame has a bunch of media voters who probably shouldn't be voters.
Well, I also argue that they're allowed to be way more transparent, and it's also one vote, you get one vote. The NFL one with these like campaigns and representing, like they have to, so in baseball,
so I guess
you're a baseball writer, you just get to vote and you move on and you can talk about it, and they make it public.
I should say this, yes. So, 2 things. One, Robert Kraft was the finalist in the contributor category, right. So he could get in. But so how this works is for the players, the media representative of the team in question has to present and make an argument, stand up before court basically, and make a pitch for why that player should get in. So to make something up, if a Redskins player, if Joe Jacoby was a finalist for years, right? And so the Washington representative
which was actually never the Washington Post because they ethically forbade participating.
It was always other people. It's been 2 or 3 other people. It was the one that had to make the Jacoby pitch. And so that's how it works today. I'm assuming then that the coach pitch probably comes from the New England Patriots rep, for the coaches. But it's a really, really dumb way to go. And again, I think 50 media people have no business deciding who's in the Hall of Fame. I don't think. So the reason why we linked this to the story, the question is, with the Kraft connection, and we're speculating, there's no source for this, and we're asking a question. Did Robert Kraft have something to do with the fact that Bill Belichick got shut out? I would say no.
I would say no too. I just think this just the myriad of stories that make this an awkward week on this front, on the Patriots front, are to me as a Patriots hater and a 1 week Seahawks fan, I am relishing.
Yes, and so we could conceivably have a scenario in which The Hall of Fame is announced Thursday. Robert Kraft gets elected, and that same day there is more evidence comes out that Robert Kraft was linked to Jeffrey Epstein.
Or that we're just talking about his hand job more than he would like.
Yes, yes, because he literally, so that kind of case, it was a misdemeanor charge. It wasn't a sexual assault charge. It was basically a solicitation charge. And most 90, I did some criminal law for a little bit of time. Okay. I don't profess to be a criminal lawyer, but I do have some experience in it. And like a very high percentage of those kind of cases, they're plea bargain down, and you'll plea bargain down to, you know, to a deferred adjudication about some non-sexual charge or something, and in 6 months it goes away. Robert Kraft, to what we said earlier, hired a massive law firm and spent a ton of money fighting this. And at some point, the local prosecutors just threw their hands up and said, "We've spent enough on this," and they let it go. Basically, that's what happened. So Kraft, at some level, bought his way out of a conviction. So it should be nobody else could. You and I couldn't do that. No.
Should be a fun week on that front.
I think somebody needs to interview the massage parlor person who entertained Kraft, during the Super Bowl week. Somebody like a reporter for the Seahawks needs to find that lady.
Put the assistant to the assistant's quarterback coach on that.
Exactly.
All right, well, we'll get out of the world of the elite 1% rich and global power base and get to the state power base in terms of, we saw some facts and figures about University of Texas's spend on their athletic department. This is kind of just, I mean, I don't know, crazy. I don't know why we should be shocked anymore, and maybe we're not shocked, but like, it's just sometimes the numbers the numbers we talk about sometimes, it's like sometimes you have to just wipe your eyes and like, am I reading this number right?
I'm more disgusted than shocked. Okay. Okay. So Sportico, this is Sportico. Texas sets new college sports spending mark with $376 million spree by Daniel Libet, dated January 22nd. And so what they're saying here is that University of Texas's athletic department spent a total of $375.9 million in operating expenses, which is $50 million more than last year. And of that, they only had revenue of $352.5 million and ended up with $192.2 million in athletics related debt. And so here's some line items on this. $94 million on its athletic facility debt service, meaning because they had to get a loan apparently to build that, and so that's what debt service means. $53 million on coaching compensation, $50.3 million to pay support staff and administrators, $15 million on team travel, $35 million on marketing and fundraising expenses, $74 million to the football team, $22.4 million to men's basketball, $11 million to women's basketball. It spent then $3.2 million on the house fee, NCAA related payments to athletes. So it spent $3.2 million, which is a lot less than what I would have thought. Because remember, the house settlement allowed the universities to directly pay athletes, and so in 1 year they spent $3.2 million in it, because that just started last July. Crazy. Your thoughts? Chris has got this look on his face like, I don't know what to say to this.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like the most obvious thing ever, and like, how did we get here at the same time, right? So, but we got here because of our appetite for this content. I mean, that's the long and the short of it.
I have a thought. Why not take some of that $376 million and put it towards educational facilities? How about that? Start a new academic program. Take some of the athletic department revenue and put it towards education, which is the true, actual function of a major university. How about that?
No, true. Well, I mean, I think at some point you're going to have to figure this out, right? And we talked about all the different ways they might this level of college athletics, but also the long tail of college athletics might have to start to reorganize itself. But and if you're talking about that level of revenue generation and revenue consumption, you know, at some point you're going to have to figure out some kind of tithing mechanic, right? That does actually more explicitly off put into resources for the
It
university's
has to,
overall
at
mission.
some level, it has to go towards the mission of the university.
Yeah. So if they were, you know, like I think that will be the conversation about how some of this eventually sorts itself out. It has to be, right? Especially if they're especially if in that world they're carved out as some kind of like quasi professionalness. However you deal with that, it's going to have to mean there's direct revenue back to the universities that's tied to that.
Yes. Now, I don't know how, if you closely read the story, Chris, it's got the three other schools that are vie with Texas to be the biggest spending schools. Do you already know what they are? Or you want to guess?
No, say that again so I get my
So
guess
three
right.
others. It says Texas routinely vies with these three other schools to be the nation's biggest spending schools on athletics.
Oh, okay. Well, Ohio State.
Ohio State's one of them. This is not going to be a surprise. It's not like Eastern Iowa University or
Right. No, I'm
something.
just trying to think of like which SEC school or.
There's one obvious one you should get off the top of your head.
So, Jesus, now I'm going to be dumb.
Want a hint?
LSU,
No.
Georgia,
Nope.
Alabama.
Alabama.
Okay.
That's one you should have gotten.
That's
right
the one that
off the
popped in my head first, and then my brain talked myself out of it.
top. And then there's one more. Big Ten.
Big Ten, Michigan.
Yes. So the four biggest spending schools are Texas, in some order, Texas number one, and then in some order, Ohio State, Michigan, and Alabama. And then, by the way, for those wondering, for those of you in Texas, A&M is way, way down the totem pole here. Where does it say it? They're at 148 million. So chump change by Texas A&M, comparatively speaking, at least. I'm grossed out by this. You said it exactly right. There, at some point, there has to be some kind of tithing, to the university. You can't. The purpose of the university is not to be professional athletics. It's to educate students. If you're generating this level of money, how about stop taking some government handouts and start putting some of this income into academics? Research programs. Salaries for educators, salaries for the staff. How about that?
Not at this level, and even in necessarily these arenas, but I work in the intersection of nonprofits and these kind of things, which is really just it's a tax status from the federal government, right? So, and there's all kinds of different levels of that. But so I have been seen work with blah blah blah, nonprofits that have spun out for-profit subsidiaries and a whole kind of governing network of ways in which those become actually holdings of the nonprofit or whatever, right? Like, so there are many models, many examples, many blueprints to follow for something like that. And in all of those scenarios, there is a because you do that because for whatever reason, that entity within that was housed by the nonprofit is creating profit in some way that has to be dealt with. And if you want some kind of connection or kickback benefit, then you roll that out as some kind of subsidiary of the nonprofit parent. So there are, and in those scenarios, there is some preordained agreement about what the official, not a legal kickbacks, what's the official financial relationship back to that home entity. And in public universities, slightly different clarification, but are essentially US 501c3, 501c somethings, right? So, yes, there are many models and ways to figure out how something that has outgrown the mission of its housing, but still wants to have some connection, and the original house wants some financial benefit. There are many models, and
yeah,
it's going to move to that. It has to.
And we don't know the structure of the athletic department. There's certainly a 501c3 component out there to it. There's probably some separate business unit that runs the facilities, and who knows. But there's going to be a pretty easy way to internally redirect some of that money to where it should be, which is education, and not just buying a bunch of athletes.
Yeah. Even something like licensing their branding out would probably be a windfall.
Yes.
So there's an example of the kind of thing that you build those things on top of.
Yep.
It'll be fascinating to see. But at the same time, they just had massive ratings for the college football season this year. They had massive ratings for the national championship game. The playoffs did fantastic numbers. So, at some point, is where's the symptom and where's the disease, right? And so the appetite for this is going basically the demand for it is necessitating these numbers to some degree. Now, how you equitably or fair or whatever slice and dice it certainly needs to be talked about. But the audience, the demand is driving the prices.
Oh, we're not even talking about that. I'm just talking about what to do with the revenue that results from the demand.
But I am actually kind of, it does kind of amaze me that more people aren't kind of grossed out by this, right? Or that have,
absolutely.
so I'm like, wow, where is the seawall? And right now I can't see one. I just see horizon.
Seems to just be you and I.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Well, there you go. Those are eye-popping numbers, though. I don't even know how you even I mean, can you imagine being in the? I mean, because theoretically, the athletic director or whatever their governing model within like a place like University of Texas or any of those that from the 5 that Steve quizzed me on, that athletic director or whoever is sitting there like theoretically similar to people around a table in terms of like, governance and leadership within the university. But it's like sitting there and eating a cold tuna fish sandwich while watching someone eat a 5-course meal,
Yes,
one seat
that's
over.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. It's gross.
That's got to be pretty wild. Well, I don't see any of it changing anytime soon, regardless of the myriad of good ideas we've filed.
No, nobody cares.
So, what's going on in Hogstye land? Although I'm sure you might be doing an, Harris Epstein dive there at some point as well.
Well, they were texting me during the show. They saw what we saw. So we will.
We're like, we got it. We're already on it.
Yeah, we will address the Jeffrey Epstein connection to Josh Harris on the next episode of Hogstye, along with Super Bowl previews and off-season stuff for the team. That show is released every Thursday, and also in all of our regular written content.
All right, and I guess we'll have a Super Bowl winner when we talk to you in 2 weeks.
Yep.
Oh, you want to put an official prediction down?
No, because I don't know what mine is yet. It's going to be Seahawks. I don't know what the score is though. Seahawks, but by something.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it much in depth, but I will be a full-throated Seahawks fan. I know that.
Yep.
All right. See you in 2 weeks.
Okay.